Welcome to the Connectors Radio Show with Mel and Farad. The Connectors Radio Show discusses minority business development, best practices, community outreach, and leadership for the next generation. We're excited to have you listening to us again, and welcome my co-host, Farad Ali.
What's happening, Dr. Mel? I am so happy to be here today to talk about minority businesses and what opportunities we have to help them to move forward in this economy. What are we going to talk about today?
Today, I think we've decided we're going to focus on joint ventures and strategic alliances, all those kind of things that bring businesses together to go after opportunity. And so I think that's going to frame our conversation. How's that sound?
Hey, that's great. You know, one of the things about, joint ventures, strategic partnerships or alliances is that it allows you to collaborate and build. I think the goal is to say 1 + 1 really does equal 3 or 5.
Yeah.
So what do you see as some of the opportunities or obstacles? And I'm hoping that during this conversation we'll be able to talk about success stories and also some failures so that we can help our audience to see that strategic partnerships or joint ventures or alliances can be good if done properly. Well,
and you love to ask me questions.
I do.
But I want to turn the script on you. If I gave you the general category of joint ventures or strategic alliances, let's not get specific about exactly what the structure is. But if I gave you the question and I said, what do you think of them, positive, neutral, or negative, what would be your answer?
It depends. I mean, one of the things that's so incredible about those things is that, like any good relationship, it demands great communication. And I think it has to have great communication and a great sense of parameters so that we can operate within. Because dealing with it depends, because it deals with who is the mega business and who's the minor business, who's going to actually operate the finances and who's going to operate the operations. Is there going to be a blend? I'm excited because minority businesses could see that there's a trend in going towards strategic partnerships and joint ventures. When we talk about big players, I'll leave them nameless, but when you have two major banks merging, and that merger creates a bigger, better bank,
right.
Or you're talking about printing companies coming together, merging, or talking about printing companies merging with transportation companies and creating these kind of alliances. Then when you start seeing that in the macro economy, that this is occurring definitely in our smaller businesses, and I'm saying businesses smaller, meaning under 200 million, should be participating in this type of activity.
As usual, you've managed not to answer the question because it depends is almost close to not an answer.
I got that.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, based on what I've seen, I'm concerned about joint ventures. But
why?
Well, that's kind of a theme of me on this radio program. I'm generally concerned about all the things we talk about.
Well, help me with this one.
Well, I'm concerned because of what I see. Here's what I care about when it comes to anything that's designed to grow minority companies. Here's what I'm concerned. I'm concerned about what I have left whenever what we did is done, whether it's stimulus money or if it's a joint venture or if it's a big project or whatever it is. I want to know what I get to keep. What's the residual capabilities left over after it's done? And I got to tell you, you hit it about this communication thing, but I think motivation, I think structure, I think personalities, all these things are so dynamic in these relationships. My fear is what I see left over is not very much. I see them as, this is going to sound much more harsh than I mean it, I see them as a means of increasing the spend number or meeting some type of spending goal more than I see them as a means of growing the capabilities of the minority business. And until we get that fixed, I'm going to run around with a very jaundiced look at joint ventures and strategic alliances.
You look jaundiced right now. I'm hoping that you clear that up.
I've been called many things,
maybe
but jaundice is not one of them.
We need to put you in a Billy Rubin blanket, and maybe we can kind of get the
maybe
jaundice
I'll feel
out
better.
of you.
Right. Maybe I'll feel better. Well, I am concerned about that, Farad, and tell me I shouldn't be.
Well, I'd have to say that when you do these things, the first thing that must happen, in my opinion, is that there needs to be this sense of mutual dependency. And that mutual dependency would be either categorized. One of the things that I could infer from your last statement was that some of the joint ventures or the strategic partnerships may come together to solve a problem, right? Which goes into your kind of transitional contractual relationships.
Sure. When you say solve a problem, do you mean a What kind of problem do you mean?
For example, federal spend money. You may get $100 million. They may say we'd like to see 20% participation, which is $20 million.
Right.
You don't have a minority business that's big enough because they can only do $1 or $2 million. You figure out a way. Let's create a plan. They partner with a major business, and they may get to the 20 million, or at least have a good faith effort in getting it. They may get to 17, or they may get to 32. But when I think of it in a, as you would say, strategy mode, and you talk about the understanding of the dependency commitment, that if you can utilize your joint venture for a strategy, and like we talked about earlier, when you have a major transportation company partnering with a copying company, when they came together to say there would be some synergies or some alliances that would make it better for the client.
Absolutely.
So really the business focus was never the transportation focus or the printing company. It was a client focus.
Sure.
Because by making it better, we can print it, we can ship it, and you have these alliances, and it works perfectly.
Right.
Well, the same is true, I think, in joint ventures or strategic alliances. If it can provide the client with an answer, or clients with better solutions or value added, that the partnership, if aligned properly and having all of the components, right? Because whenever you do these, you need to have good attorneys, good accountants, good management, good staff, and a good plan. If you have all of that kind of wrapped around and understanding if you're going to harvest your business and grow it or sell it, all of this kind of planning, so that when people walk in, there are times when you are left with nothing. Because if I come in and say, Mel, you're a $1 million company and I'm a $100 million company, I want to partner, you come really with nothing.
Right.
So you will probably leave with what you came with.
Yeah.
But if you come in saying, hey, I'm going to partner with you on this project, but I'm going to protect my entity, my wholly owned subsidiary, that I would keep Mel Gravely Enterprises. But Mel Gravely Enterprises will partner with Farad Ali Enterprises and create the connectors. The connectors entity is what we're trying to build value add. But individually or solely, we are still able to build our business using the intelligence or the collaboration of this new entity. So I'm hoping that people will see that a strategy in doing it.
That was very eloquent. That's very eloquent.
Sense.
But I got to tell you, it all breaks down if the problem that you're trying to solve, or as you said, the value you're trying to add to the customer, is this minority component. If that is the only value you're trying to create, and sometimes, honestly and fairly, it is. If that is the thing you're trying to solve, then in it also must be some way that the minority is going to build some capability.
Yes.
Because if not, when do we stop having to do those? If they don't grow any capability, let's say they leave with what they came with, as you described, right?
Yes.
So we what, in the year 4010, we're going to continue to have joint ventures with minority firms so we can get their capacity up? At what point do we say, you know what, I'm willing to grow my spend slower because I'm going to grow it right, because I'm going to make sure that my joint venture is a joint venture that increases capabilities of minorities? And I'm a little bit advocacy on this one. I know that, but my point to you is that it depends on what we're after. We have started focusing on the goal has become our mission. So we took this spend goal, which I think are great. We got to have spend goals. I think they're very, very important. But now it's like it become the mission to spend with minorities. That's not the mission. The mission is to grow capacity so that people create wealth, they create jobs, and that we really change how this system works so that it is more inclusive. And we're not getting that done unless the minority partner increases their capability. That makes sense?
Hey, man, it makes sense. So in answering your question or looking at solutions to this, maybe we should talk about what are some of the supplier development goals that could be a part of this mission. Understanding that you were saying the goal is the mission, and the mission could be around building wealth and jobs and create a community. Right. Then maybe because it may be new to our community, or it may be new in a business sector. And this is, again, this is not a conversation that appears to just be for the minority community. This is also a majority community question as well.
Absolutely, because they're entering into joint ventures.
No question.
And there's some major corporations who are listening to our program, who are loyal listeners to our program, who are buying from these joint ventures and strategic alliances. And I think they ought to make sure that they've got their eyes completely open about what they're getting.
So I'm wondering if some of these major buyers would say that if you're going to partner with a minority company, for whatever that logical reason is, as it relates to the client,
right.
We don't want to do this unless it's client focused.
Right.
What is some of the supply development planning that could go into it? So how do you feel about that, a measurement tool or supply development plan with these ventures?
Well, I think those would work. I think they're difficult to implement. There's a good reason why this isn't happening. It's work. It's work to say, I come into this joint venture and I'm at stage X. And we've got a 3-year plan that when I'm done, that I'm going to be at stage Y. And in that plan are a set of experiences, a couple of key hires, some financial ratio thresholds I'm going to jump through, some capabilities I'm going to add. That's work. When we could just simply say we're in this joint venture, as long as we keep getting contracts, it's good. So I'm not saying what we're doing is bad or good. That's not a right or wrong. What I'm simply saying is, if indeed we want to one day not have to continue to have these kind of approaches ever, if we ever want to get to that point, we've got to get more strategic about joint ventures, because I think they might be hurting minority companies more than they're helping.
Well, when you talk about being able to participate, as we talked about earlier, if it's with the stimulus package or with private companies, we always talk about you have to have this kind of capacity, right, or this capability.
Right.
Well, do you feel like you're going to get there through organic growth?
No, I'm okay. I love the concept of joint ventures. I love the concept of joint ventures. I'm simply saying at some level we've got to do the work that goes underneath the joint venture so that we can get the residual capabilities at the back end. So I don't want the listeners to think that, or you to think that I'm against joint ventures. I'm not. And I'm even okay with them the way we're doing them. We just can't fool ourselves to think we're getting something that we're not.
Wow.
To tell me that a joint venture is doing, millions and millions of dollars, when the truth is that the minority part of that is doing very, very little. And it hasn't gotten any more over the years. And they haven't gotten any more capable. And their balance sheet doesn't look any better. And they're no more competitive on their own. And so what did I get?
So are you telling me you believe that minority companies are just getting checks?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing from you?
It was the way you leaned in that made me cause me pause. No, I'm not. Well, I'm sure that happens, and I'm not
stuttering. You're stuttering.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we're not doing anything. But if we come in again at stage X and we're doing stage X stuff, I'm just saying that over time that we've got to be able to move to stage Y. That we ought to be watching our partner so that we can replicate what they're teaching us. We ought to be learning by watching. If we're not learning by them teaching, we'll just learn by them watching and start replicating what they do. We should be hiring people that can take us to another level of capability. We should be planful about our balance sheet and about opportunities that we're going to go after so that we're a stronger business. And I'm probably the only person in the country that thinks this makes any sense at all, but I'm trying to look out 40 years, right? And I'm saying that I don't think what we're doing is a sustainable model. People are not going to continue to invest in doing business with minorities if we don't continue to show not just that we're spending more, but that we're actually capable of doing more. And there are pockets of that all over the country.
Right.
So please, I hope people don't start writing in and emailing us and blowing up the website because I'm going off here a little bit. It's happening, but I'm seeing too many times that it's not planful because it's not easy.
Right. So what you're really saying is that you want to build a sustainable model, and that it has no sustainability.
I don't think it does
if we continue to operate it today.
Well, let's just say
the way it works.
Let's just make a let's look into the future 25 years.
All right.
And
you'll be 75.
Okay. Let's look out into the future. And in the future, let's say that there is no more certification for minority firms. That major corporations now have a global view of the world, and they're looking at the United States as just one of their markets. Right. And there's no more certification, and they're no longer setting goals for doing business with minority companies. Let's just imagine that world.
Okay.
We've got to be in that world able to compete. With the capital, the capabilities, the relationships, the processes, the innovation, the investments, all that stuff that we need to be successful, we've got to be able to compete in that world. So the question in my mind is, and maybe everyone else will say, yes, we are. But here's the question. Are we on track to do that? If we are, forget everything I just said.
You know, it's a very interesting statement that you just said. It was felt like I was going to see a movie that's coming out with a 20 something on the back of it. But anyway, 2025, whatever that may be.
Have no idea